Welcome to Paranormal Nightshift, your home for all things that go bump in the dark and your fan stories told here. Why do we write off folklore and mythical creatures? Why do we act like these things that have been told stories of for generations just somehow, some way stopped existing? Thousands of stories over hundreds of years of people continuing to see the same kind of creatures. Today's story deals with a little lesser known creature and is called the Rake. Unlike skinwalkers, the Rake seems to be stuck in its other form, not allowed to shapeshift or mimic anything else, but stuck in its half-human, half-beast body. Brian writes in, it was in the fall last year. The leaves were changing, the entire ground was crunchy. I need that to be told. That needs to be a very big detail about this. My friend and I were walking home from Burger King. It was probably 8, maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. We walked and took a shortcut down the railroad tracks. It cut between my house and our neighbor's house, maybe a quarter mile down the road. I lived at the end of the cul-de-sac on a dead-end road. If you would have actually taken the sidewalk there, it takes you a lot longer. Cutting through the woods is the easiest, best option. My parents had a rule. They were fine with us walking that way as long as we called them to tell them that we were on our way. We had called about 5 minutes prior and said, we're going to go through the woods and we'll be home in, 10, 15 minutes? As me and my friend were walking, we heard all the crunching of the leaves going through the woods. It wasn't quite all the way dark yet, and it is still just a wooded area behind a cul-de-sac, so there's plenty of unnatural light or artificial light, whatever you want to call it, and the moon was very bright that night anyway. We had gotten close to my house. All we had to do was climb over this fence, and I thought it was a little weird that my dad hadn't turned the light on. See, most of the time, if I call my parents, they'd at least go out to the back and turn on the porch light, but everything was still really dark. But anyway, I climbed over the fence. It's only about a 5.5 foot fence. It didn't take anything, just chain link fence. I went my turn and waited for my buddy to go over, and that's when I saw it. Maybe 10 feet down the fence line, the fence was rattling, like something else was trying to get over the fence. It freaked me and my friend out, and that's when we turned on our cell phone lights, and we saw these long claws, long, like knife-like claws going over the chain link, making noises and rattling the fence. Cell phone lights aren't bright, so we couldn't see much of anything other than the claws. My friend hurried over the fence and we started walking backwards with our cell phone lights, trying to see whatever we could. There just wasn't enough light. Finally, my dad came out on the back porch and flipped the light on. It illuminates the backyard. And there he was, this pale creature. Looked and built like a man, but different. Thin, skin and bones, pale gray white skin, and its eyes were jet black. Its skin didn't look like human skin. It looked wet, like a snake's skin looks wet. Its entire body was nude, no hair, just pale. And its hands, its claws, its hands were elongated. It had like knife-like fingernails. The thing let out an evil hiss. My father saw it and he began running down to the fence. I remember the sound of the leaves and the twigs cracking underneath his heavy boots as he ran as quickly as he could towards me and my friend. The thing looked at my father and looked at us and scurried off into the wood line. My dad stood out there with his flashlight looking for it, but it didn't make a sound. No rustle or crunching of leaves. Nothing. The woods were quiet, eerily quiet. With all of the leaves on the ground, with all the twigs on the ground, we would have heard crunching, rustling, something. But it was just quiet. After that, my dad never let us walk through the woods anymore. I make phone calls now and he comes and picks us up. I hadn't seen it again, but after trying to describe it to so many people, someone sent me a picture of what the Rake looks like. It is exactly what we saw that night.